In the winter of 1978, 5 men drove into the California mountains to watch a basketball game. Only one would ever be found alive, and his condition defied medical explanation. The others vanished into a wilderness that seemed to swallow them whole, leaving behind a trail of evidence so contradictory that investigators began to question whether they were dealing with human disappearances at all. But before we start, subscribe to never miss another disturbing revelation. It was February 24th, 1978, in the small city of Yuba, California, nestled in the foothills of the Sierra Nevada mountains. The temperature hovered just above freezing as evening approached, and a light snow had begun to fall on the higher elevations. 5 men, all intellectually disabled but fiercely independent, prepared for what should have been a routine trip to nearby Chico. Gary Mathias, 25, served as the group's unofficial leader. His military background and relative social skills made him the natural organizer of their outing. Ted Weiher, 32, stood 6 feet tall with a gentle disposition that masked an obsessive attention to detail. Jack Madruga, 30, owned the white and blue Mercury Montego they would drive that night. Bill Sterling, 29, rarely spoke but possessed an uncanny ability to remember faces and license plates. Jack Huett, 24, rounded out the group with his quiet loyalty and surprising mechanical aptitude. The 5 men belonged to a basketball team called the Gateway Gators, part of a league for adults with developmental disabilities. That Friday night, they planned to watch the University of California play against California State University in Chico, about 50 miles from their homes. More importantly, they had their own playoff game scheduled for the following day, a fact that Weiher had mentioned to everyone he encountered that week. The drive to Chico should have taken them south on Highway 99, a well-traveled route they knew intimately. Security cameras at the university gymnasium recorded their arrival, and witnesses later confirmed seeing all 5 men in the stands during the game. They appeared relaxed and engaged, cheering for their team and sharing snacks from a paper bag. The game ended around 10:30 that evening, and the last confirmed sighting placed them at a convenience store 12 miles from the gymnasium. The clerk remembered Mathias purchasing a soft drink and asking about road conditions. She noted that the men seemed eager to return home, discussing their important game the next day. Then they vanished. When none of the 5 appeared for their playoff game the following afternoon, their families contacted local authorities. The men's absence was completely out of character. Weiher had been talking about the game for weeks, often to the point of annoying his roommates. Mathias had promised his social worker he would attend a Monday appointment. Madruga had left his wallet at home but taken his car keys, suggesting he expected to return that same night. The initial search focused on Highway 99 and the direct route between Chico and Yuba City. Deputies found no trace of the Mercury Montego or its occupants. On February 28th, 4 days after the disappearance, investigators expanded their search radius and made a discovery that transformed the case from a simple missing persons investigation into something far more disturbing. Forest Service personnel located Madruga's Mercury Montego 70 miles from where the men should have been. The car sat abandoned on a remote mountain road near Oroville, in an area called the Plumas National Forest. The vehicle had been driven up a steep, winding Forest Service road that was barely passable even in good weather. Fresh snow covered the car, indicating it had been there for several days. The condition of the Mercury defied immediate explanation. The car was stuck in snow, its rear wheels spinning uselessly when investigators attempted to move it. Yet the engine was in perfect working order and the gas tank contained enough fuel for the return trip home. The front windshield had been shattered from the inside, with glass fragments scattered across the hood and dashboard. Personal belongings lay scattered throughout the interior, including Mathias's military discharge papers and Weiher's identification. Most puzzling was the discovery of a hand-drawn map tucked under the driver's seat. The crude sketch showed the Forest Service road where the car was found, complete with landmarks that none of the 5 men should have known. The map included notations in a handwriting style that investigators could not match to any of the missing men. Footprints in the snow led away from the Mercury, heading deeper into the wilderness. The track suggested that at least 4 people had left the vehicle and walked northeast toward the higher elevations of the Sierra Nevada. The footprints were unusually deep, as if the men had been carrying heavy loads or moving with great difficulty. Search teams followed the trail for 12 miles through increasingly treacherous terrain. The tracks led through dense forest across frozen streams and up steep mountain slopes that would challenge experienced hikers. Along the way, searchers found disturbing evidence of the men's passage. Articles of clothing hung from tree branches at regular intervals, as if someone had been marking a trail. A red wool cap belonging to Mathias was discovered tied to a branch 15 feet above the ground. The trail ended at a remote Forest Service trailer used by personnel during fire season. The small structure sat empty and locked, surrounded by snowdrifts that reached the windows. Someone had forced entry by breaking a window, and the interior showed clear signs of extended occupation. The scene inside the trailer revealed a mystery that investigators are still trying to understand. The facility contained enough canned food and supplies to sustain several people for weeks, yet the evidence suggested the occupants had been starving. Empty food containers were stacked neatly in one corner, but a large cache of canned goods remained untouched. The can opener lay on the kitchen counter, easily accessible and in working condition. Investigators found makeshift beds constructed from torn blankets and clothing. Cigarette butts filled several containers, though none of the 5 men were known smokers. Most disturbing were the notebooks found scattered throughout the trailer, filled with rambling text in multiple handwriting styles. The entries described strange lights in the forest, voices calling from the trees, and repeated references to the watchers in the snow. One notebook contained detailed observations about the local wildlife, noting behavioral patterns that seemed unusual for the season. The writer described deer gathering in perfect circles, birds flying in geometric formations, and the complete absence of normal forest sounds during certain hours. The final entry, dated 6 weeks after the men's disappearance, consisted of a single line repeated 43 times. "They are not what they seem to be." 4 months later, in June of 1978, a group of motorcyclists discovered human remains in a creek bed 2 miles from the trailer. The body belonged to Ted Weiher, but his condition raised more questions than it answered. Despite being missing for 4 months, the remains showed signs of recent decomposition. More puzzling was Weiher's location. He had somehow traveled miles from the trailer through terrain that should have been impassable for someone in his condition. The coroner's report documented weight loss consistent with prolonged starvation, yet tissue samples revealed unusually high levels of nutrients and vitamins. Weiher's clothing was in remarkably good condition, showing little wear despite months of exposure to mountain weather. His shoes, which family members confirmed were nearly worn out before his disappearance, appeared almost new. Additional searches that summer yielded fragmentary remains of 2 other men, Jack Madruga and Bill Sterling. The scattered bones were found in widely separated locations, distributed in patterns that suggested neither animal predation nor natural decomposition. Some remains showed unusual mineral deposits, as if they had been exposed to chemicals not naturally occurring in the forest environment. Gary Mathias and Jack Huett were never found, despite extensive searches covering hundreds of square miles. Their disappearance remained complete and absolute, as if they had simply ceased to exist. investigators noted that personal items belonging to both men continued to appear at various locations throughout the forest for months after the search was officially suspended. The case attracted the attention of federal agencies when local authorities discovered that the Forest Service had no record of the trailer where evidence of the men's presence was found. According to official documentation, no such structure existed in that location. Aerial photographs taken months before the disappearance showed only empty forest where the trailer clearly stood. Further investigation revealed that the Forest Service road leading to the Mercury Montego's location was not marked on any official maps. The road existed, was well maintained, and showed signs of regular use, yet appeared on no government surveys or planning documents. Local residents, when questioned, provided contradictory accounts of the road's existence, with some insisting it had been there for decades, while others claimed they had never seen it before. The final piece of evidence emerged during a routine review of the case files 3 years later. A Forest Service employee discovered a series of photographs in a box of unclaimed property. The images, taken with a camera that was never found, showed all 5 men inside the trailer during their final weeks. The photographs documented their deteriorating condition day by day, but also revealed details that investigators found impossible to explain. The images showed the men apparently healthy and well-fed despite other evidence of starvation. They appeared to be engaged in some kind of organized activity, arranging objects in complex patterns and working with materials that were not present when the trailer was discovered. Most disturbing were the final photographs, which showed the men apparently communicating with figures outside the trailer windows, figures that did not appear in the images themselves. The Yuba County Five case remains officially unsolved, though the investigation was quietly transferred to federal jurisdiction in 1981. The trailer was removed from the forest and the access road was barricaded, then somehow disappeared entirely. Recent satellite imagery shows no trace of either the structure or the road that led to it. Local hikers and hunters continue to report unusual phenomena in the area where the men disappeared. Strange lights move through the forest during winter months, following patterns that seem too deliberate to be natural. Sounds of human voices carry through the trees, speaking in languages that listeners cannot identify. Most commonly reported are sightings of 5 figures walking single file through the snow, always heading deeper into the wilderness, never responding to calls or attempts at contact. What do you think really happened to those 5 men in the California mountains, and why did the evidence seem to contradict itself at every turn? Share your thoughts in the comments below and subscribe to explore more cases where the official investigation raises more questions than it answers.